Hey everyone, and welcome to Great Boards, the video course. I just wanted to say that you've made an excellent decision, and this is a really short video that will share with you how to use the course and the steps involved in getting everybody involved and how to make your course experience a really positive one. First of all, I'll say at the outset, at any time that you have any challenges or any issues with the course, the technology, or if you have questions about the content, make sure that you reach out to me personally at Paula MacLean at learningforleaders.ca, and I am there for you all the way through the course as your board members and as your senior staff members explore the kinds of content that's there. If you have any challenges using the technology, which we have had very few of, touch wood, then please let me know as well, and at my end I'm usually able to kind of guide you through. It's very often a what button do I push kind of challenge. So please make sure that you reach out to me if you have any kinds of concerns. I also want to give you an opportunity to pick up the Great Boards course book, and this is the original book that was written. We're in our 7th printing now. It is the book on which the course is actually based, and it is an awesome support to the video training that you're about to do with your board members. So at learningforleaders.ca you can buy either the ebook or softcover versions of the book. We ship in 24 hours, so that's just my little plug for an additional resource that will be supportive to your board. We do have volume discounts for multiple book purchases as well. So let me tell you a little bit about the Great Boards video course. First of all, the course is organized into 10 modules. It's still growing, so there might be 11 or 12 modules by the time you actually watch this video course. There's usually about 3 or 4 lessons for each one of the modules, and those are multiplying as well, so we're actually adding content to the course. So if that information is a little bit out of date in this video, then consider yourself lucky. You're getting the expanded version of the course. Each lesson is about 10 to 15 minutes, so you can see the actual amount of lesson time on the video. So plan your board viewing time either individually or as a group around the lesson length. Sometimes lessons are connected to each other, so it's good to watch 2 lessons or even 3 lessons back to back. There's 1 handout per module. This is really important. So when you download that module handout, you've got all of the lessons all in one place. So download, and if you need to, print the handout only once for each module, and that will cover all of the lessons in the module. A couple of things that are important around your login. You'll get an email from me when you register for the course, so make sure you keep that email because it gives you login instructions, and my suggestion is to you can edit that, cut and paste it a little bit and send it off to your board members so that they understand how to log in. The login ID is in fact the email address that you used when you signed up for the course, and you can change that address if you want. Make sure you change it to an address that I can use to communicate with you, because when you change it on our system, you're actually changing the email that I am going to use. So if you're going to change it to something like info@ABC organization, it's really important that somebody be monitoring the info@ email box, because that is how I'm going to let you know when there's cool stuff happening in the Great Boards video course kind of program. So the board member's password, change it to something that is easy for them to remember. So it can be, board training or anything that you think is appropriate. You can put your agency name in it, anything that works for you, but make it something that's really easy to be able to find. Now, how do you change those things? You can change them all. You have 100% control over the settings in your account, and you go to the login page and go to the upper right hand corner. You'll see a gray head. It's called an avatar. If you click in that area, you'll see a drop down menu, and you can make changes to your settings on your account. You can change your email address and passwords and anything else that it might be part of your account. So that's an important thing to understand, and make sure that your board members don't go messing with that. We've had a few circumstances where board members have actually changed passwords and emails because they thought it belonged to them personally. So let them know that this is a shared account for everyone on the board and that they shouldn't be changing it, and that management management should have control over that. Now, one of the things that has become a very common practice is that executive directors or CEOs are actually previewing the modules before they're showing them to the board. I like this practice because it helps the executive director or CEO knows what's coming up. And some of the content that are in the modules and the lessons, of course, need to be customized, need to be kind of adapted for your unique organization. So when the ED or CEO previews these, they kind of be able to have a conversation with the board to say, yes, that's great advice, or, no, we do things a little bit differently here. I want to highlight now the topics that are included in the Great Boards video course. And again, this is a growing list, so one of the things that I want to make sure you understand is that this list might be a little bit out of date by the time you view this introductory video. We're going to talk about types of boards and board roles and responsibilities. We're definitely going to talk about board executive director relationships. We're going to talk about how to build and create governance policies right from the ground up. I'm going to talk about templates and a whole bunch of other things that'll be really helpful and practical to you. How to manage board liability, how to limit risk, how to do prevention around liability, and some of the myths around liability is one of the modules. The whole module on strategic planning, and also about how to create vision statements, mission statements, and statements of core values or beliefs. We have a module on creating codes of conduct, and also on how to build conflict of interest policies, and also how to manage conflict of interest if and when it happens inside your organization. There's a module on board succession planning, on board recruitment, and how to do good board member onboarding or orientation. We'll talk also about how to manage board meetings and how to work through committees, how to make motions, how to do voting, some of the kinds of things that are Robert's Rules of Orders that kind of help a board meeting flow and be easy to attend and a pleasure to participate in. And then we'll also have a module on executive director performance appraisal and the 360-degree performance appraisal process, how to create policy that guides that, and also how to actually make that happen. So some really cool kinds of content. Now, at the end of every module, and sometimes in the middle of the module, and sometimes at the end of some lessons, depending on how much we've covered in each one of those lessons, there is a learning assignment. And that learning assignment invites you to practice what is actually in the module. Now, here's the thing about any kind of learning. It is not the power of the instructor. It's not the power of the medium, whether it's live training or online training like this one, that makes your board better. It's the practical application of those strategies inside your own organization. Just out of interest for you, there's been probably pretty close to 800 nonprofit board members who have gone through the earlier versions of the Great Board video course. And one of the things I get almost every single day, something comes to my inbox to say, we're working on module 3, or we've finished the course, what comes next? And people are really minding down and treating this as a pretty serious adventure. They're having some fun along the way, creating the things that will strengthen their board over time. So I'm going to invite you to accept the challenge that says, don't watch the videos passively and then think that Harry Potter's magic wand tapped you on the shoulder and everything will be good. In fact, you have to tap yourself on the shoulder with the magic wand, implement the strategies, and I am here all the way along as your guide, as your supporter, as your coach. Send me an email, ask me a question. I more than welcome that engagement. By the way, I answer every single email personally, and I'm usually back to you within 24 to 48 hours if you have a question. So be a little bit patient with me. I do need a few hours of sleep every day, but it's really something that I really commit to in supporting your learning as we go along, and make sure that you keep me connected to the realities that are in your organization. Now, in your actual slide handout, you're going to see a little bit about me, and I'm not going to read that to you. It basically tells you why I believe that I have what it takes to be able to guide your organization through the process of building a better board that grasps good governance, that does really good things of service and support to your organization. One of the things that I often say to nonprofit boards when I'm doing live training is it is a board's job to be in the service of the organization. And sometimes we get a little tilty in that, and sometimes it ends up being the organization and the paid senior managers who end up serving the board. Now, I'm not talking about, just putting sandwiches on the table that give people a little bit of food that kind of fuels their brain power to be a good board volunteer. I'm saying sometimes we become so respectful of our board that we end up serving the board rather than the board serving the organization. So I'm going to remind you of that all the way through the modules, that our job as board members, our job as organizational volunteers is to be of service, to use our skills and our expertise, our professional training, our personal training, life experiences to be able to support the organization to be stronger over time. So let me just talk a little bit about the course framework or the values that drive the course. There are many, many ways for a board to get things right. There are literally hundreds of things that boards can do, and Board A can do things differently than Board B and differently than Board C, and in fact they can all be very functional and very helpful to the organization. So there is no one right way. I'm going to share with you in this course a whole bunch of best and improving practices. But the reality is if it works for your board and it's legal and ethical and functional and practical and it creates engagement, then do it that way. So there's not one way to do things, there's many ways to do things right. And having said that, there's a few things that we can do that can really mess things up. So all the way through the course, I'm going to share with you some of the tips and strategies to stay clear of the rocks. So board work should be really quite straightforward, but in order to make it straightforward, we have to invest the time and energy into learning how to do things well, and then how to stay clear of the things that we don't want to do to avoid making those big mistakes. So how do we create then a high-performing board? Well, a few things that we need to do. First of all, we want a shared commitment to learning. There's this course, but there are hundreds of other resources in print, online. There's short YouTube videos all over the place. And be a little bit cautious, because of course the internet doesn't necessarily just have good information. It has information that we have to kind of sort out the good from the not so good. So you'll get contradictory advice and have to have a conversation. But even if you find something that contradicts what your own common sense tells you or what I'm teaching in this course, that's perfectly fine. What you want to do is bring it to a board meeting and have a conversation about that. As you learn, you want to take action to improve, if you don't, then this course and all the time that you invest in it is just a big waste of time and money. You want to make sure that you are working through the process of creating strong and comprehensive governance practices. It's the one missing link that I often see when I'm working live with organizations, when I'm coaching executive directors or training with boards, is that they have governance policies, but they're kind of ping-pongy policies. They're in this meeting minute from 5 years ago, and then in something from a week and a half ago, and they're kind of not all together in one place, and they're not comprehensive. So we tend to create policies as we need them and never put them all in one place, all in one format with a rational numbering system, with pages that are numbered that we can actually refer back to them. So I want you to create governance policies that are comprehensive, that you can use, and that will support your organization and create some group memory for your board going forward. And I want you to also hold yourself accountable for following the rules of your organization. Those rules start with your foundation documents, like your bylaws or your incorporation documents, that give you some of the key rules. There's also rules that are created by your provincial, by your state, by your federal governments that drive your organization and tell you what you can do, what you must do, what you must not do. So make yourself as a board accountable for following through on those rules, for following your governance policies when you have them in place. I want you to create a working partnership between the board and the executive director. This really should be a hand-in-glove relationship. We want division of labor and division of roles roles and responsibilities, and understanding that boards should put their arms around, not fingers in, the organization, that paid managers manage operations. So we want to do that, but we don't want to create artificial divisions. We want to understand that the board as a whole is the executive director or CEO's boss. So we want to make sure that we are trusting the board, trusting the executive director, and then also holding the executive director and the board accountable for following the guidelines and the rules that we set out. We want our boards to tend to their own succession and recruitment and orientation processes. This is often something that boards default to the executive director and maybe even other senior managers inside the organization. It is 100% the board's job to plan for its own succession, to plan for recruitment. That's why we do a whole module and a whole bunch of lessons on this topic. But the other part of it is that the executive director or CEO has a role to support the board in its practices. So it means that the board cannot do this by itself. The board is a group of volunteers. They bring good energy and enthusiasm and good intent and a commitment to the cause of the organization. But that partnership with the executive director really needs to be tight and strong, and EDs need to support good governance work by the organization's board. So with that, dive right in, get the party started, start off with Module 1, Lesson 1, or scan down the list to all of the modules and figure out which one is the best fit for your organization. And you can hopscotch and move back and forth inside the modules as you see fit, as fits with your board's needs and your organization's needs over the next several months. So welcome again to Great Boards, the video course. I wish you well. Again, anytime you have a question, a challenge, a problem, send me an email to Paula MacLean at Learning for Leaders. All the best. Happy learning.